Hello and welcome to Project Hyperlight Steel Bike. Now, for anyone who's got any interest in bicycles at all, or for that matter, anyone who doesn't really care less about bikes, they still can't fail to have noticed that over the last 100 years or so that they've been around, they've changed quite dramatically. For example, you don't normally see many of these pedalling around the town centre. There's been a slow evolution of the bike, so the classic steel diamond frame, okay, that was in, 1900s, early 1900s, 1915, 1920, around that era, and very much with steel components, and very simple. Like in this case, we've got a fixed gear drive system. Then we get more into the era where most people would describe as the classic era, I think, of the steel bicycle, probably from the 1950s towards the late 1980s, where a lot of development had happened in the materials that the steel tubing was made of. All the components had evolved, and for a lot of people, that seemed to be the end of the evolution of the bike. But of course, as we all know, things have moved on quite dramatically to these carbon composite material bikes, which are extremely lightweight, and they're the ones now favoured by the professionals. And in fact your amateur club cyclists. Obviously, the biggest difference that has been over those years in development is the materials. The steel frame bikes made of steel. Surprise, surprise. Since the late 80s, we've moved into aluminium, much lighter. Titanium, again, not as light as the aluminium, but much stronger and stiffer. And carbon composite materials. Now, most people would say that the carbon composites, the titanium and the aluminium, are superior because they're lighter. But there's an awful lot of people who still prefer the classic steel frame, even though they're bound to be heavier. They're stiffer, they'll last an awful lot longer. You can bash them about a little bit, although I wouldn't recommend it. So there is definitely a group of people for who steel is the material of choice to go to. Now, even though these composite materials, such as carbon fibre, are much lighter, if you actually go to the UCI, the people who control cycling competition, what you'll find is they have a big list of rules. And the one of most interest to me is this. So for competition use, the bike must weigh at least 6.8 kilos, or 14.99 pounds if you're still in old money. So this sets an interesting challenge, and that is, can we make an old, or convert an old steel bike frame into a more advanced specification so that we can get close, or even perhaps below, that 6.8 kilo limit. So at the moment, we don't know if that's possible. That's going to be the first task, to scope just how close it might be possible to get that. But we will have some design principles to guide us. So these are: we will not use any materials that could not reasonably be used at the time. So for example, titanium would be in, because you could have, in the 1970s or 80s, you could easily have machined parts from titanium. Carbon fibre really wasn't around in the composite form that it is now, so that would definitely be out. And we're going to apply three very simple further principles to how we try and get the weight of our selected machine down. So we will examine every single component on the bike and either eliminate, so we'll remove some part of it completely. We will replace, so where we can, we will replace the current component with a lighter alternative. Or modify. We will change or alter the part in some way in order to reduce its weight. So that's some very simple principles. It's a very simple target. We know exactly what it is. So the first thing we need to do really is to try and work out how likely it is that we will succeed. And for that, we're going to have to weigh things. Weighing things, obviously, the more accurate you want it, the more expensive the weighing apparatus would be. We haven't got a budget to stretch into a few thousand for an analytical scale balance. But in the next video, what we'll show you is how you can weigh fairly accurately to several decimal places using a £10, or roughly, if you're in America, roughly $10 because they're about the same at the moment. $10 scale, how we can modify that and use it so that we can array more accurately into more decimal places. So click on the link below and see how we get on with that. Okay, speak soon.